During my high school years, my house boasted an expansive backyard that seamlessly merged with a vast forest. As youngsters, my friends and I would venture deep into the woods to engage in thrilling games. There was always a slight tinge of danger that heightened our sense of excitement. However, as we grew older, we gradually ceased our forest escapades due to their perceived lack of purpose. One day, while relaxing on the couch with my friend Tyler, he proposed the idea of embarking on a nocturnal adventure into the woods. Initially, our plan revolved around a simple stroll, but it swiftly evolved into an ambitious overnight camping expedition. Luckily, Tyler mentioned that his parents possessed a tent we could borrow. Consequently, we strolled down the street and retrieved it from his garage. It is worth noting that neither of us had any prior camping experience, leaving us clueless about the intricacies of such an endeavor. Nevertheless, we brushed aside any concerns since we would only spend a single night out there. After packing a bag with an assortment of snacks, water bottles, and a portable phone charger, we ventured into the woods. However, our excitement was quickly dampened as we discovered that the flashlight Tyler brought was subpar, offering only feeble illumination that barely extended a few feet ahead. While it prevented us from colliding with trees and shrubs, our visibility remained severely limited. During the initial 15 minutes of our trek, we exchanged enthusiastic remarks about our anticipation and the eerie ambience. Subsequently, we continued walking in silence for another 15 minutes, captivated and slightly unnerved by the uncanny stillness. Occasionally, I thought I heard faint rustling nearby, but the flashlight's feeble beam failed to reveal anything. Upon completing our 30-minute walk, we stumbled upon an open grassy area encircled by trees, an ideal spot for setting up camp. Tyler ingeniously propped the flashlight on a bush, casting a modest glow over our surroundings, and we commenced the tent assembly process. Despite Tyler's claim of it being an easily assembled tent, the reality proved otherwise. We grappled with the tent for nearly an hour, desperately attempting to prevent it from collapsing upon itself. To exacerbate matters, every time we heard a suspicious noise, we had to retrieve the flashlight, scan the area, and then resume our futile struggle with the tent. Personally, I began to regret our decision to venture into the woods at this point. However, once we eventually managed to erect the tent, our stress levels subsided. We settled inside, embracing the symphony of woodland sounds. Moments of utter silence alternated with the melodious chirping of birds and the occasional animal noise, creating a mesmerizing experience. Regrettably, our enchantment abruptly transformed into unease when we both recognized a familiar sound, the distinct footfalls of another human being. Remaining huddled inside the tent, we intently listened as the footsteps meandered around the surrounding trees. Though they didn't appear to draw closer, their presence signified the presence of another person, not an animal. After a minute or so, the footsteps receded, leaving us in tense silence. Convinced that the individual had departed, we cautiously emerged from the tent, opting to sit outside instead. Feeling acutely vulnerable confined within the tent's confines, our conversation continued as we closely monitored our surroundings. To our dismay, the sound of footsteps resurfaced in the distance, growing steadily closer with each passing moment. Eventually, they reached a disconcertingly close proximity, igniting concern that the individual might be approaching us directly. Reacting swiftly, Tyler directed the flashlight toward the source of the sound, but the footsteps persisted. Slowly, they advanced towards us until we anticipated the person to enter the flashlight's beam. However, abruptly, they halted, lingering just beyond the light's reach. Both Tyler and I found ourselves frozen, fixated on the darkness that enveloped the figure. Then, with one step backward, the footsteps retreated, fading into the night. A minute later, the sound dissipated entirely, restoring the woods to an eerie stillness. Seizing the moment, we promptly dismantled the tent and hastily departed from the scene, consumed by fear and unease. So rattled were we that we inadvertently strayed from the correct path, finding ourselves on a neighboring street. Exhausted yet unable to sleep, we spent the entire night in my room, engaged in a disquieting discussion about the events that had unfolded and the potential horrors that awaited us. From that night onward, we vowed never to set foot in those woods again. Even today, I maintain a safe distance from isolated areas, haunted by the possibility that the person we encountered that fateful night harbored nefarious intentions. Before delving into the following tale, I would like to discuss a significant sponsor for today's video. Aura, an advanced online digital security service, plays a crucial role. It enables you to scan and eliminate your personal data from various online sources, including scam centers, the dark web, and data brokers. These entities profit from your private information, making it imperative to remove your data from their grasp. With Aura, the process is made simple through their free trial. Within minutes of registering, I had Aura scan and eliminate my data with just a few clicks. They promptly notified me of numerous locations across the internet where my personal data, such as my full name, phone number, and address, was found. Without Aura, I would have remained oblivious to this. Furthermore, Aura continuously monitors my data, instantly notifying me of any arising issues and facilitating swift resolutions. They also offer a feature to encrypt your home's Wi-Fi, ensuring the security of all your connected devices. In today's world, personal identity and data theft unfortunately affect a significant number of U.S. citizens, resulting in substantial financial losses. With Aura, you can have utmost confidence in your security and preventive measures. To experience a completely free 14-day trial, visit aura.com/whispered or scan the provided QR code. During this trial, you can determine if your personal data has been compromised, remove your data from multiple prominent platforms, and securely monitor your personal identity. I highly recommend taking advantage of this free trial to ascertain if your data has been stolen and to safeguard your identity. Once again, my sincere gratitude to Aura for sponsoring this video and ensuring the security of our personal data. Now, allow me to share an anecdote about my experience camping in Illinois, the state I reside in, known for its flat terrain and limited hiking and camping opportunities with scenic views. Despite this, I decided to embark on my first camping trip this year in a secluded forest, considering its flat land and a seemingly straightforward trail leading to a small pond. I anticipated a modest but pleasant view. The hiking portion was relatively short, just under an hour, yet the pond at the end left much to be desired. It turned out to be disappointingly small and encompassed by marshy surroundings. Consequently, I had to pitch my tent further into the forest, where the ground remained dry. After an hour or two of camping, boredom crept in, compelling me to explore the vicinity of the pond. As I ventured to the other side, I discovered a lack of notable features or landmarks. While the forest exuded a tranquil and picturesque ambience, it seemed repetitive with no distinguishing characteristics. Returning to my camp, with the sun gradually fading, I kindled a small fire using a fire starter and proceeded to heat some food. As twilight approached, I noticed a light across the pond. Positioned among the trees, it happened to be where I had previously traversed. Curiosity mingled with unease as the thought of encountering a stranger or strangers in the forest crossed my mind. However, considering the limited camping trails in the area, the odds of such an occurrence did not appear overwhelmingly improbable. I continued with my evening activities, periodically glancing across the pond as darkness enveloped the surroundings. The light, which I initially mistook for a campfire, became increasingly distinct, revealing itself as a flashlight or some mechanical illuminating device. An hour later, from the corner of my eye, I witnessed the light gradually dimming, followed by a few flickers until it vanished. This development sent a chill down my spine, leaving me perplexed and uncertain about its meaning. Surprisingly, the remainder of the night transpired in silence, as I slumbered undisturbed. With the dawn's arrival, I readied myself for another exploration, still preoccupied with the memory of the light and eager to uncover its origins. I retraced my steps, crossing to the other side of the pond where the light had emanated, scouring the area for clues. It didn't take long for me to stumble upon the culprits, a sturdy flashlight lying in the grass. Although its batteries had depleted, the device appeared relatively new, devoid of any discernible scratches or signs of wear. Further examination yielded no other indications of human presence. After contemplation, I decided to leave the flashlight where I found it and began making my way back to camp. However, my progress halted abruptly when I noticed figures across the pond. 2 adult men stood by my fire pit in the heart of my camp. Another individual emerged from the trees, joining them. From my vantage point, I could discern their silhouettes but little else. Overwhelmed by fear, I refrained from raising my voice or making any sudden movements, opting instead to observe their actions. The intruders roamed around my camp, rifling through my belongings. Then one of them abruptly turned, directing their gaze toward the pond, directly at me. Our eyes locked momentarily, sending shivers down my spine. The man departed the camp, striding amidst the trees. Briefly losing sight of him, I caught a glimpse of his figure as he sprinted through the forest. Driven by panic, I fled deeper into the woods, distancing myself from the pond. Although the chances of them locating me seemed slim, fear clouded my judgment, and I sprinted for approximately 15 minutes before finally halting, orienting myself towards the general direction of my car. Fortunately, I managed to reach safety, yet I had lost all my possessions. To put it succinctly, nothing eventful occurred afterward. I filed a report with the police, but unfortunately, it yielded no results. To this day, the memory of that flashlight haunts me. Was it connected to those men, or did it belong to someone else entirely? I hope the flashlight was merely a ruse, employed to lure me away from the camp. However, if that were the case, why would they pursue me afterward? I strive to convince myself that it was solely a robbery with no further intentions. However, deep down, I know I came perilously close to never escaping that forest alive. Last year marked a significant turning point in my camping adventures. Having embarked on numerous solo camping trips throughout the year, typically to familiar locations, I occasionally felt the urge to explore uncharted territories. For this particular expedition, I chose the 4-mile camping trail, a path I had never ventured upon before. Commencing my journey in a remote locale, which required a 2-hour drive from my abode, I immediately noticed that the trail failed to evoke the anticipated level of enjoyment. The presence of damp and muddy segments dampened my spirits, but I persevered, cautiously navigating around these obstacles. After some time had elapsed, approximately 45 minutes into the hike, a peculiar sight caught my attention off the trail's edge, a worn-out tent with a few discernible tiers. Upon closer inspection, I realized it was vacant, showing no signs of deliberate damage. Instead, the weather had evidently taken its toll, leaving it in a dilapidated state. I curiously examined the surroundings both inside and around the tent, yet to my surprise, there was nothing else of note to be found. It struck me as peculiar, for I had expected to stumble upon a trove of abandoned belongings, but apart from the tent itself, there was an absence of any remnants. After contemplating this enigma for a brief period, I resumed my trek along the trail's final hour and a half. To my growing unease, I encountered numerous discarded items strewn about, a collection of camping and hiking gear. The disarray of abandoned possessions, all concentrated along the 4-mile trail, unsettled me deeply. Clearly, this was no accidental oversight. It seemed apparent that a solitary individual had intentionally left everything behind. Upon reaching the trail's end, I prudently set up my tent at a safe distance from the path, taking precautions due to the encroaching darkness. Despite a slight apprehension, I managed to slumber peacefully throughout the night, undisturbed by any untoward incidents. The following morning, before sunrise, I emerged from my tent, only to sense an immediate disturbance in the air. Swiftly pivoting, I discovered a man standing just a few feet away on the opposite side of my campsite. He stood tall and emaciated, clad in filthy attire, his visage smudged with dirt and grime. His vacant gaze pierced through me, leaving me rooted to the spot in sheer astonishment and fear. In a chilling yet hushed tone, he uttered a single word. I nodded instinctively, my mind paralyzed by the shock of the situation, muttering the word "okay" repeatedly. However, his response was far from reassuring. He abruptly lunged towards me, causing me to stumble backward in alarm. I managed to find my voice, repeating the word "leave" as I scrambled to my feet and fled, abandoning all my belongings in the process. Glancing back briefly, I witnessed the man rummaging through my backpack like a curious beast. Hastily, I sprinted as far as my legs would carry me, before resorting to a brisk pace to reach my vehicle. Grateful that I had kept my phone and keys within my pocket, I finally attained cellular reception and dialed emergency services. It was revealed that an eerily similar incident had occurred in the past, although the person involved had chosen to keep it concealed from the media. It became evident that the abandoned tent and belongings I discovered belonged to this undisclosed individual. Subsequent discussions with the authorities led to the formation of a modest search party comprising of officers. Regrettably, their endeavors along the trail failed to yield any sightings or evidence of the man. However, they did retrieve most of my belongings, strewn haphazardly in close proximity to my campsite, akin to discarded refuse. Since then, the case has gone cold, mirroring the fate of its predecessor. The lingering question that continues to haunt me revolves around the man's peculiar conduct. Why would he scatter everything about the forest without any intention of utilizing a single item?